Hi everybody, I'm here to talk about the new moon on May 26th, which is around 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. As always, if you haven't been on my channel before, my name is Katarina. I'm an Akashic record reader as well as an energy practitioner, and I channel into the collective's Akashic records in order to offer messages for astrological events, or in general, if I feel guided to do a collective reading, I do post on here. So if you're interested, please subscribe and like my video. And let's begin. So the new moon, which happens to be on Memorial Day, which is interesting, and most people actually get this off, which is great for those who do, because this is a day of deep introspection and a day of shedding your skin. So a big symbol during this time is the snake. And how does the snake play into the symbolism of a human and the symbolism of life? Well, snakes themselves shed their skin over and over and over again consistently throughout their life. So we are shedding old parts of our identity, and like the snake, we are resilient to the shedding. For example, when a snake sheds its skin, it moves around, it wiggles, it needs to release the energy in order to take the skin off. So that is what we're doing. So one of the biggest aspects of that is how can we, sorry, I'm grabbing my crystal here because I like to hold one during a channeling session. So sorry, back to what I was saying is, how do we use movement in our favor? For example, do you have a steady and consistent movement practice, whether it's walking outside, whether it's dancing around, even shaking? When you shake for 4 to 5 minutes in the morning, even if you do it for 2 minutes in the morning and at night, you're releasing any stress, any toxins in your body, any energy that is stuck. So that includes shaking your hands, shaking your feet, literally bouncing up and down and being connected to the floor, being rooted to the floor. That is a wonderful practice that I invite you all to do during this time if you don't already have a movement practice. And if you do already have a movement practice, I would recommend even including that in your movement practice, because there is a lot of excess energy that we need to get out, because when we do not release the excess energy, it turns to anxiety, which then leads to anxious thoughts, and then that feeds into our patterning that we already have. Something that I was pointed out to recently that connects deeply to this reading in particular is, if our environment is the same every single day, if we're doing the same thing every single day, how do we expect to change? How do we expect for things to change in our environment, for things to change in our inner and outer world? So that includes also choosing to do things a little differently. That even includes maybe changing the way that you drive to work. Maybe instead of doing what you always do on that Saturday when you get work off, you change it up a bit. You add something into your practice. You take a class that you've never taken before. You drive to a city you've never been to before. You go try that new restaurant. These are ways for us to grow new neural pathways in order for our brain and our consciousness to expand. So then we are more resilient and we have more expectations. We set more expectations for the change, meaning that our cerebral capacity expands and we're able to handle change a lot better. Because when we always stick to the same thing every single time, there's a difference between structure and having the same repetitive pattern every day. Because structure entails that I know what I want to achieve today. For example, I know I want to move my body. I know I want to achieve peace as best as I can throughout the day. I know I want to manage my stress levels as much as possible. I know I want to attract new clients to my business. And so when you have that is structure. That is structure, and that is setting expectations for yourself and for your energy, so your energy levels can stay high. And then that movement practice can look different every day. The way that you obtain clients can look different. The way that you achieve peace can look different every day. For example, maybe you're not doing the same meditation every single day, but you're choosing a new one, whether it's on YouTube or wherever you prefer. And then maybe you are choosing new peaceful thoughts. So that is what I mean when I say there's a difference between structure and choosing the same thing every day. For example, if we're going to the same gym, taking the same route, eating the same food, talking to the same people, talking about the same thing over and over again, we are not going to evolve and we're not going to change. It's as simple as that. And of course, like, if we love the people we're around, that is okay. And that makes a lot of sense because it's natural for us to have community. But if you are stuck in patterns with that person, for example, maybe you're always talking shit about others, or maybe you're always bringing up family members you don't like, or maybe you keep talking about politics and the same kind of politics over and over again. And maybe you're stuck in a rut with that person, and that doesn't mean that you can't grow with that person. Instead, slowly changing your neural pathway so you can talk about something else. Maybe that day you talk about the new thing that you tried, or maybe you bring up how you're feeling, or maybe you start talking about the food that you want to eat. Changing the subject to a more positive, uplifting subject. And if something is pressing that feels, let's say it has a heavy feeling to it that you want to talk about, well, maybe it's changing the way you talk about it. For example, maybe somebody really pissed you off and you are in your rage mode and you're upset, and all you want to do is talk a lot of shit about this person. And instead, before you start talking and venting to this other person that you are close with about the person that made you upset, you start thinking and reflecting, okay, I want to understand why they acted like this. Okay, they acted like this because I've allowed them to. They've acted like this because they've shown me who they are and I keep expecting them to change. They've acted like this because I did not put sufficient boundaries with this person. So then you're taking your power back, and then you're seeing, how did all these interconnected pieces play a part in the drama of being upset? And it's okay to let yourself, it's important to feel the anger, but it's important, equally as important, to not let the anger control you and not let the anger lower your vibration to a point where it's harder to get back to a place you were at. So then as you observe, you then bring up to this other person, they ask how your day was, and you're like, you know what? It was a little challenging. I got a little upset. I could have handled that situation better. I'm still feeling angry right now, and I want to then change the subject and let's talk about something else, because the anger is active within my body, but I'm letting it dissipate by breathing deeply. Maybe you go to the restroom, and if you're at a restaurant with that person, you just shake it off. You kind of look for, sometimes when I'm in a public, I look for a sink, like in the restroom, and I just brush my arms as so, and release the excess energy that I'm carrying that's causing whatever emotion I'm feeling. And then you take a couple deep breaths, and you may be surprised how much better you feel. And then you start thinking about something else, something that's more positive. So redirection. And redirection is also how we change. We change our thought patterns by constantly redirecting our energy to what feels best. Because I promise you that the thing that you think is serving you, but instead is draining your energy, is not for you. It's so important to understand how we feel before and after something that we're engaging in, because a large message that I was receiving before this recording is what we think that we like, or what we think that serves us, in actuality harms us. Because the things that we're choosing from a past pattern. We're choosing from a place of wanting to feel comfortable. We're choosing from a place of staying stuck and staying in our old patterns. So sometimes the things that we choose that we think are going to make us feel better make us often feel worse, because we keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting results. that is often the definition of insanity, because we drive ourselves insane trying to make something work for us that no longer, that has its expiration date, I like to say. So how can you choose different in your life? What can you choose today that is different than how you dealt with yesterday? And it can be something so small. It can be something like, instead of getting overwhelmed by the mountain of things I have to do, I am going to trust and surrender to the fact that I will get them done in the time and manner they're meant to get done. And I choose to commit all my energy and attention to this one thing, and give it my all, so I know that I did my best. Instead of trying to do 4 things at once, which I am very guilty of: sending the email, eating your lunch at the same time, maybe thinking about that person you're gonna call, then you're thinking about the restroom you have to clean in, like, when you get home. It's natural, because there's always something to do. We're humans, and that's how we stay connected. That's how we stay entertained in a way. If we had nothing to do, we would probably be bored. And we say that we want to just do nothing and we want to get vacation time. And I think it's so important to find sacred time every day, not just waiting until Saturday and Sunday or whenever your off days are to relax, but finding an hour. I like a good fat hour to really do nothing. And that nothing can look like laying on your bed and staring at your candle burn, or it can look like watching a show for an hour and you're just enjoying it for what it is, and then you go back to whatever you're doing, or whatever that is, but it doesn't involve so much external movement. So going back to what I was saying about finding what works for you, and also choosing to be as present as possible, because presence is where change is. When we are constantly in our head and thinking about A, B, E, D, we lack the ability, or we neglect the ability, to stay in the present and see what the lessons life currently has to offer us. For example, sometimes even when so let's say I was getting my nails done the other day, and I could have just sat there and just absorbed the room that I was in or the person I was talking to, but instead I was thinking about this and I was thinking about this. And then all of a sudden I felt this urge to just quiet my mind. And when I did, I found bits and pieces of the space I was in that reminded me of a time where I was in Mexico, and then that kind of led me to this other thought that made me happy and that made me relaxed. So this is an example of learning to be comfortable in the silence, and learning to be comfortable and strong and courageous enough to silence our mind. Because when we first silence our mind, that is scary. It can be so scary. And the reason why is because we realize we are our own bullies. We tell ourselves lies. And when we silence our mind, we begin to be very aware of the way that we treat ourselves. When I started to silence my mind a couple years back, I was astounded and horrified at the way that I spoke to myself. And I didn't realize why I was feeling the way I was, and I was manifesting the relationships that I was manifesting around me. There's this particular planet, and this planet is named Sedna. Sedna is a newly discovered dwarf planet that we can see alongside the moon. So if you see this little ball of fire, I guess the best way I could say it, by the new moon on May 26th. So what Sedna I feel like I kind of cut myself off, but what I was trying to say is you will see Sedna on May 26th, and she's a dwarf planet, and Sedna is all about understanding and awakening to the fact that we may not be as liberated as we think we are. And when I say that, I mean, let me tell you about the story of Sedna. Sedna, essentially, she was ruled by her father and her partner. And she let them, they were both masculine energies, she let them tell her how to control her life, how to walk her life. And she didn't know until she went into Gemini, or when she went into what we now know as Gemini season, she then realized that she was captive to their control because she allowed it. And she awoke to the fact that she wasn't truly free. So when she awoke to the fact that she wasn't truly free, she then did the work to free herself. So is there parts of your life where you don't feel free? Do you feel like you try to control yourself in a specific way? Or do you feel like you allow others to control you? And that is where the magic happens. When we realize there are parts of our lives where we feel like we are holding back or we are hiding, we then are able to rise from the ashes. We are then able to let that part of ourselves die. As much as it's painful and it is hard and it's challenging, and we go through depressive episodes often during those moments in time, the rewards are so sweet, and we are able to truly live our Satya. Our Satya is a word that means truth. And I was exploring that word this morning because Satya also connects with the idea that not only do we tell the truth, but we are the truth, that we live by a sense of integrity. We are our own compass. And that actually brings me into crystals I recommend working with during this time. As many of you may know, I'm a big lover of crystals. My mother and I have a shop where we have plenty of crystals. And if you may already have some of these at the house, or in your possession, I should say. 4 crystals I'm going to recommend. 1, clear quartz. Clear quartz is known as the master stone. It works with the crystalline energy field, tapping you into a higher frequency and helping you channel excess energy. Then there is Satyaloka. So Satyaloka is another, so how I said Satya represents truth. There's Satyaloka. If you could work with that particular stone, that would be something that also connects you to what is my truth? Who am I? How do I relate to others in this world? And where is it that I am holding back? Then there is Lazulite. Lazulite connects you to your divine universal knowledge. The Akashic records is also known as the divine universal knowledge. Understanding and studying yourself, because it often takes going to the college of who you are to study the intricacies and the facets of who you are. The last one I want to mention for the new moon in Gemini is, it was coming to me and I'm trying to see where is it in my mind. Kyanite. So blue kyanite connects to the throat chakra. The throat chakra is all about expressing, communicating. How do we communicate, and what is the power in our communication? Because I also say that silence is the most powerful form of communication. Often we don't have to say much in order for people to feel what our truth is, because if we're standing in our divine, powerful energy, they are able to sense us, they are able to feel us. So we're working with the throat chakra using kyanite to expand our awareness of how we move through life and how truthful are we in our lives and in our relationships. I also, in terms of things, or I should say nutrition, in terms of nutrition is the best word to say, during this time, I'd recommend, everybody has different energy. I would say for this particular, if you feel like you tend to be more in your masculine, meaning if you tend to run hot, your body temperature tends to run hot relatively regularly, you also have a desire to always take care of others and take care of things for others, and you are a go-getter, and you are what they would say a natural leader, and you communicate very with a lot of strength, then you are more on the yang side, meaning you're more on the masculine side, or that's where your energy tends to flow at this moment, let's say, or at this couple of days. I'd recommend cooling foods, smoothies, making smoothie bowls, doing iced water, also doing salads, doing sandwiches, things that are not super hot. And also, if you could definitely do electrolytes during this time. And you will resonate with what I'm saying, even if you don't feel you may be more on the yang side, more on the masculine side. And that this is irregardless of gender. I'm talking about expression. For example, I'm very balanced in terms of having both the masculine and the feminine. That wasn't always the case. And I present as very feminine, and I enjoy my femininity, but I have a lot of masculine energy. I have a lot of energy all the time. I like to do really hardcore workouts. As you all see, I talk a lot. I like to take care of things. I have this kind of analytical brain for business and for relationships, but I also can be very emotional. So I know right now I feel like I'm in my yang, and I notice you may notice too, like I've been waking up, it's been hotter, at least here in California. I've been waking up super sweaty. I've been really hot. I've been feeling like my emotions are a little higher, so I've been needing more soothing, I've been called to more soothing foods. And then if you're more on the yin side and you feel like you want to step in more into your power, and you want to set your boundaries and learn to speak your truth regardless of what people are feeling, and you feel like you are the feminine who tends to be more submissive to others, I'd recommend activating foods. Tumeric is really good right now for that. Cayenne, cinnamon, putting those in your for your foods or your drinks, making a turmeric latte. I also recommend teas, lots of teas before bed. I also recommend doing, I wouldn't say soups, but just things that are warm bowls, things that are warm oriented, that are orange, connecting to the sacral and the solar plexus, like sweet potatoes is coming in strongly. And also, I would say right now, pineapple is very activated. Of course, it depends on allergies, if you have allergies, but those are things that I recommend dietary wise during this new moon, and it's gonna help you process and express whatever's going on right now. And if you have all this excess energy, or if you feel even like a little sad, a little depressed, I would say movement. Then taking time to, if you have some oracle tarot cards, do yourself a little reading, give yourself a little reading, spend some time with yourself, do some me time, have generous me time. Then also standing in presence with yourself. If you're at work, in presence with your environment. And I really want to let you all know that when you spend more time in presence, you will start to recognize if you feel like you're currently not fully happy or you're not sure where things need to change. The more present you are, the more you will be able to identify what's not working for you, because you'll able to see, oh, my body doesn't like this, my energy does not align with the environment that I'm in. And then you will either choose to leave that environment or change the environment or change the way you see things, or maybe it's the way that you think that's not working anymore. Presence is powerful during this time. I'm checking in to see if there's any last remarks regarding this new moon in Gemini. The other aspect, I know we're going a little longer than I usually do, but I just feel very called to do so. The other aspect of Gemini is the twin. They represent the twins. So I like to see the twins as our light and our dark. And how do they mesh together? How does our light and our dark mesh together? And how can we balance them and how can we transform them so we can feel like we're in our power, not that one side has power over us. Our dark side does not have power over us. So there's a lot of reflection. Even if you do mirror work, like obsidian mirrors are really great during this time to do mirror work, or even looking in the mirror and looking at what you see. Look at what you feel. What energy do you feel? What energy do you exude? And telling yourself that you love yourself and that you accept yourself just as you are. The mirror work is very transformative during this time because of Gemini and the way that the energies of Gemini work together and flow. So that is all about taking your power back from the darkness that we give it away to. And that also looks like if you have a lot of anxious thoughts, meaning when you get anxiety, you just get really negative and you just start getting really dark really fast. It's also giving you data so you can then process it and say, how could I have dealt with that better? So when you get anxiety, it's all about, how I was saying earlier, redirection and calming the nervous system and working with your nervous system. I have spoken to a couple of you regarding the importance of adaptogenic mushrooms. These are not the mushrooms that are psychedelic, you're not going to get high, but working with adaptogenic mushrooms, whether it's putting it in a smoothie, buying a capsule, doing a powder, a cacao. There's also some cacao, adaptogenic cacao. Has an acquired taste, but you can probably, doctor it up with some maple syrup, some honey, make it into a latte. Working with those have been coming up for the collective, those ingredients I've been feeling, because we have to learn how to be in our bodies. We have to learn how to slow down, because this new world that we already are in is not going to be supportive of hustle culture. So we have to deal with it now, because the more that we put it off, the more the universe is going to send us some really rude awakenings. I'm going to leave this message here. I really hope that this resonated with you all, and I love to hear in the comments down below. Again, I do book via in person at Stones of Transformation, or you could book through Zoom again, but my link is always down below. I will put the crystals that I recommended in the description box, and I really appreciate you all taking the time to listen to this message.